Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. And after the brief holiday in the old world, we're now back on familiar grounds with Warhammer 40,000, 11th edition, and the very first codex that's being released for the new edition, which of course is Orks. What I'll do in this video is I'll give you a very quick rundown or run through of the codex, just very quickly show you a lot of the pages, and then I'll do separate videos reading through the lore, going through the detachments and going through the individual data sheets. So those will be videos coming soon. But for now, let's just have a very quick overview as to what this codex is like, because this is a new format of codexes as well. This will be the way that Games Workshop are going to produce their codexes for 11th edition from now on. So what do we have? We have a smaller book, and it's a softback, and it feels quite soft, but it's in a sort of slip case here, which is not hard at all really, but it's just very thin cardboard, so it just adds a bit of protection. You can put it on your shelf and it just looks a bit more solid, I suppose, and it just protects this new softback format that we get for the codexes. And there are 175 pages ish in this codex. Now Games Workshop have sort of bragged that there's 100 pages plus of lore now in these new codexes. I don't think that's quite right, frankly. I've had a very quick flick through this, and the lore pages are mainly photos and artwork, and there's a little bit of text. There's a few paragraphs of text on each page. So, they're saying it's 100 pages, but frankly, it isn't. You'll see what I mean when we go through. So let's have a quick flick through. So we open up. The first thing we get is this sort of inside cover map, which is always welcome. Love a good map of the solar system. So a galaxy of brutality, as it says here, and this is giving you all the different theatres of war, if you like. You can see the Bleak Coil, the Eye of Terror, Armageddon, Riser, Octaria, so all these sort of war zones that we know and love. And it's just, this one's focused, of course, on the orcs, and it tells you by virtue of these symbols here, these little skulls in the triangles, where the orcs are sort of focusing their attacks. So we can see that War Nazdreg, the Great War Wazdaka, for example, and the Arch Arsonist of Caradon. Don't know who that is, and War Skull Stomper. So all these different wars, sort of reaching into the middle of the galaxy and causing trouble. So that's a nice little bit of artwork to start off with, and the main ones are shown here. And of course, we have this new one of Sif, which was shown in the Kill Team box that came out recently with the Exodites. So that's like a new war zone. So here we have the contents page. So you can see there are a lot of data sheets, although some haven't made the cut and have gone to Legends, but some new ones have come out as well. So we will go through very quickly just to show you what you're getting in this new codex. It's going to be a lot of art and blurb, lore of the orcs, and then the orc rules. Yeah, so just basic introduction. But you will see a lot of pages like this, and you have a really nice piece of artwork, and then a little bit of blur, but really there's a lot more pages than probably needed to be in this codex, because again, you see, I mean, it's nice, I like the artwork, but it's taking up quite a lot of real estate, this, and not adding too much in terms of the prose or the lore or even rules. So let's see. So now we're going to get a bit of history of the orcs, Gork and Mork, of course. And I'd say it's very well made. It's sort of glossy pages. That's why it's reflecting the light so much. Apologies, but that's because these are very nice pages, and it is a good quality product. Orc glyphs. This is a nice touch, showing you all the different types of glyphs that orcs have. That's one for gits. What else we got? Squig, teeth. So I'm really speaking orc now at this point. And then we go into a bit more of the lore, the background for orcs. Might makes right. And again, another massive page with like 5 lines of text on it. Another picture with no text, and again it's just continuing a little bit in this vein really. Speed wires, explaining what they are. Crump, noise, amplify, crush, attack. Yep, sums it up pretty well. Mechwar, again half pages, so a little bit more text now. Mech boy workshops, some of the arsenal of weapons that the orcs use. Snagger stampede, so onto the beast snaggers now. And dread mobs. And then now we're into the individual war bands, I suppose. So the Goths, the Evil Sons, and I mean, there isn't a great deal of text here, is there? I mean, this covers the whole of the Evil Sons, just this, not even 2 pages. Bad Moons, as you'd expect. The Death Skulls, the Snake Bites, and the Blood Axes. And then the Freebooters. I'd really love a new model for Captain Badrock. I imagine we'll get that one day. But yeah, so that's that. And then now we're into the individual sort of prominent characters. So Ghazghkull. Ghazghkull just gets half a page. And then war bosses, big bosses, knobs, mega knobs, weird boys, Nazdreg. Nazdreg gets 2 paragraphs. Pain boys, banner boys. You know, I just remember reading through the Black Templars codex, and there were stories in there as well. So, like, you know, you'd have individual stories of Helbrecht and Grimaldus, things like that. I don't think you get that here. This is a very sort of brief overview of the different aspects of the faction. Mechs, big mechs, Dakarigs, mech guns, all our favourites here, tank busters and breaker boys. So that's the same kit. That was a kill team kit, really nice kit. Flash kits I think probably could do with a refresh. So could the Storm boys. Maybe that'll come in a year or so. Normal boys, commandos, another great kit. Boss Snickrot, the war bikes, the war tracks, Wazdaka, Rucker Truck, Squig Buggies, Defiler War Trikes, or War Buggies. So this is all the Speedwire elements. The trucks, new truck model, very nice. Defcopters, battle wagons, gun wagons, and then all the aircraft, which you probably won't see much of in 11th edition. And then beast bosses, pain bosses, Mosrog, Scragbad, and the Squig Hog boys. Beast Snagger boys, Gretchen Runt herds, Zogrod, Wart Snagger, Hunter rigs, kill rigs, Death Dreads, Killer Cans. I mean, it's a big old range, isn't it, still? Morkanauts and Gorkanauts. And finally the Stompers. And the Savage Stars, I'm not sure what that's about, but we'll get into that in the lore reading. So that's the sort of the lore aspects that we got. So that's 102 pages, but as you can see, there wasn't a great deal of text. They've kind of oversold that a little bit, but still nice. But it is very much just a brief introduction into each aspect of the Orc faction. Here, this is sort of focused on combat patrol and an introduction to the faction, and it's giving you sort of 4 different archetypes that you could start with if you wanted to play an Orc army: a war horde, a speedwire, the dread mob, and beast snagger stampede. And so it's kind of giving you a like an example list that you could run here for warhorde, speedwire rather. Let's see what it says. So detachments: Cult of Speed, Blitz Brigade, and Flyboys. Then you'd have 1 Death Killer War Trike, 1 Big Boss, 1 Wazbomb Blaster Jet, and then the battle line units: 6 war bikes, 3 war bikes, 10 boys, 1 truck, and then a gun wagon, 4 Squig Hog boys, 2 war tracks, 5 knobs, 2 war buggies, and 3 Defcopters. So that's you can probably see all that laid out there. So just an example of different ways that you can approach running an Orc army. And these for the other ones. And then we have a little bit of painting guide as well. how to paint orc skin, the tattoos and markings, weathering and grime, and the checks that you very often get on orc banners and armour, etc. So that's quite nice, but again, not particularly in depth. Here, an example of an orc battlefield, which just really seems to be the normal terrain that we've seen Games Workshop release, but with a few little orc symbols on them. You know, it's not particularly orky, frankly. But there you go. And then now we're into the rules. And as I say, I'll do a separate video on the rules. But again, we have introduction, and then we go into the army rules and the data sheets, and then the detachments, and then the data sheets, which, as I say, I'll go through separately until we get to the aircraft. And then at the back, just a little bit more art and another fold out cover. And here you'll see the approach this time is that there's going to be a scratch off code, because obviously this codex isn't sealed in the same way that the old ones were. So to ensure that your code is new, you need to have it scratch off. So that's it. That's the format. I quite like it. It does seem, how to describe it really, other than the rules, of course, which are always all going to be in any codex. The rest of it seems less comprehensive, I would say, than other codexes. I wonder if I've got another codex from another edition, actually. Let's just have a look here. From my little library, I've got two previous Ork Codexes that I've just literally pulled off the shelf here. For, I don't even know which editions. I think it's probably 8th and 10th editions. So let's just compare. Obviously bigger in terms of like height, at least, but in terms of thickness, I mean, the new one is probably thicker than the old ones, but as I say, I think there's just so much unused space in the new one. Let's just have a look at this. I mean, look at that. There are no pages in the new codex at all that looks like that. Just pages of text where you're really getting quite a full background. You're maybe getting some history about different war zones and different things that had happened, you know, in the previous lore. You know, this is, to me, just on first sort of glance, this is way more comprehensive. Goths, Ghazghkull Thraka. So Ghazghkull Thraka gets these 2 pages, talks all about Armageddon. Then these, Makari gets that much. You know, it gets far less in the new codex. The individual sort of sub-factions, the warbands, they look like they get pretty much about the same, actually. They don't spend too much time looking at them. But I think in general, I mean, the one other thing is that you have a showcase in the old codexes, and you don't really get that now. So they've obviously thought that this is something they can just cut out, because anybody can find photos of painted models online, can't they? So they've cut all these pages out. So that's a good thing, I think, to get rid of all this. They didn't need all this in the middle of the codex. And then they've added the painting guide as well, which I doubt this codex has. Oh, it does, actually, to be fair. It does have a little painting guide. Focusing weirdly on squigs, because it's focusing on the combat patrol of the time. So that's not that helpful if you don't want a squig army. And then, of course, all the rules are sort of the same format, really. Crusade and points. Now, there aren't any points, I don't think, in the new codex. That's another thing to pick up on. It's just rules, and then it stops. There are no points. So they're obviously, Games Workshop is very aware that the points are constantly fluid, always changing. So there's really no point putting the points in the codex. Everything's on the app now. And I think that's a sensible change as well, really. I mean, it's just a waste of everyone's time to have not the rules, but the actual points values and things like that in the codex, because they're almost going to be out of print the day that you get hold of it. So, I'm just looking very briefly at this other codex, which I think was the 8th edition codex, correct me if I'm wrong. And again, just another flick through. Seems to me, again, going into just a bit more detail than we're getting. That's Gazkul. All of that is Gazkul. Again, talking about Armageddon. So I think it's actually very similar to the codex I just looked at. With Makari getting his little section, etc. So yeah, I think, as I've said, there's some good changes and bad. They've condensed it. They've made it more portable. They've made it more usable. You can take it to your games. They've protected it somewhat from sort of redundancy or being outdated by the change in points. They've cut out a bit of unnecessary space that was taken up by photo galleries, but I do think that there's just less to read in here. Maybe that's a conscious decision that they don't want to overload new players and they just want to give you a brief introduction. But the codex, and the way certainly they've marketed the codex, is that this is the comprehensive tome that will give you all the background to your faction. And I don't think that's the case. I think it is just a very brief introduction, and then maybe you go into the novels, etc. If you really want to know about orcs. But this will give you just an overview of what is in the orc faction, a little bit of their history and what they're up to. And that's that. So those are my initial impressions on the new 11th edition Ork Codex. So if you liked that video and you want to watch out for the videos I'm going to be doing, reading the lore, going through the detachments and the rules for those, and then running through each of the data sheets, then do like and subscribe and comment if you want. Tell me if there's anything you want me to specifically focus on or show you, but I am going to go through the whole book anyway. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thanks for watching and take care.